Hello everyone and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's Gaming Friday. I'm Gary.
And I'm Geoff.
And today we are taking a look at Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Which came out, tail end of 2015.
Yeah.
On the Xbox One. It was, of course, an exclusive, but now it's available on the PC. And I think this is possibly the 10th Tomb Raider game. I'm not sure because that's not including like games that were on the Game Boy or on handhelds or the spin-offs. I'm talking like actual Tomb Raider games. I think this one's the 10th one by my counting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember on 360 we had a little sort of top-down, like kind of twin stick shooter.
I think there was two of them. I'm not sure, or there was an expansion for it because it did pretty well.
Tomb Raider license has seen a lot of evolution over the years, isn't it? To be fair. Well, this is the second one of the new reboots from Square Enix.
It is indeed. How many Tomb Raiders is this for you, Geoff?
Well, I think I played the first 3 Tomb Raiders, but every one of those first 3, I never got very far into them because they were not really my kind of game.
Okay.
They were quite long and tedious. You used to get into these big open areas where you'd have to spend in ages finding like a switch or something. Yeah, trying to do a puzzle type thing. And
for me, those early games was about the awkward sort of camera angle facing the right direction to line up your jump correctly, because if you were looking at it at a 42 angle, that was it, you'd fall to your death.
There was some terrible like jumping mechanics.
Well, yeah, the first Tomb Raider game came out back in 1996, and it was then on the PC, on the PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn. After that, though, Sony PlayStation signed, I think, an exclusive deal. No, sorry, it was Tomb Raider 3. Back in 1998, Sony had exclusive rights for the Tomb Raider franchise.
Yeah.
And I think the last Tomb Raider game I played, I remember very distinctly playing the first one and the second one and finishing them both on both PlayStation and PC.
Right. You finished them.
I finished them both, yeah. I skipped Tomb Raider 3 and went straight to the last Revelation. And I think it was the one that followed that was Tomb Raider Chronicles, but the last Revelation had a very dark ending to the series, especially to the original run. I don't know if you ever remember, but spoilers here for 1999's Tomb Raider. At the very end, Lara gets trapped in a dungeon and the villain sort of escapes and the door closes behind you and you're trapped in there for eternity.
Wow.
And that was the last game.
Wow.
And then Tomb Raider Chronicles came out a year later, and it was all prequel stories. It was like, nope, no concluding story to the demise of Lara.
Interesting.
And then,
I think I actually did get that game, and I can't remember what platform I had it on, but again, I just never.
It was one of my
favorites.
It was one of my favorites. And then I skipped Tomb Raider Age of Darkness. I skipped Tomb Raider Chronicles. I skipped Tomb Raider Legend. But Tomb Raider Anniversary, which came out in 2007. Which was obviously a remake of the original Tomb Raider, and it was made with such love that it actually got people back interested in Tomb Raider again.
Yeah, I mean, so far,
unfortunately they followed that up with Underworld.
So far I have loved the reboots. Yeah, like everything else prior, I was just like, I can't. I understand in principle why people like this, but it's just not for me. And then they rebooted it properly with Tomb Raider.
Well, the original team was a British team. It was Core Design under Eidos Interactive.
Yeah.
But I think it was in 2009 Square Enix purchased Eidos Interactive.
I was going to say that's why they got the Deus Ex.
And it's been sublet to Crystal Dynamics.
Right.
And Crystal Dynamics are the same people that made the Legacy of Kain series.
So
you've got some immense storytellers along with some great game designers that have come to the Tomb Raider franchise, and it's no wonder the Tomb Raider franchise has blossomed all over again, especially with the first Tomb Raider reboot, and now with this one.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I heard the other day that I didn't realise this, but apparently the main writer for this game is Terry Pratchett's daughter.
Wow. I mean, that also it goes to explain how the characters are so likable.
Yeah.
You can relate to them, and that's what they did with the last game, was that they wanted to humanize Lara a little bit more. Of course, you know, her features have changed somewhat over the decades.
They have indeed.
Although her face and her hair has kind of stayed the same. That's about it.
She's got that classic English beauty look, but she is fucking stunning in this game, I have to admit. Square Enix know how to model a good character, let's face it. For Final Fantasy models, they've always looked fantastic.
Yes.
And they've brought that technology to, I guess, Crystal Dynamics. And this looks... It's possibly one of the prettiest looking games I've seen. Oh no!
Oh, there was no hitting the bottom and dying.
I tried. She stuck out her thing.
It's one of the great things about this game, just like I remember with the Dead Space games, is just the horrific and horrible demises of your central character.
That's all still in here, yeah, still in here.
It's bone crunching, kind of quincing, horrible deaths, being crushed under rocks, and
yeah, she does. She dies in fantastic ways. You'll love it.
Do you know one of the main things? I mean, we go back to 1996 when Tomb Raider first came out. Do you know what it was that drew me to want to play that game? Oh, I can tell you. Well, at that age, there was 3 things that made me want to play the game.
Yeah.
Can you guess what they are, Jeff? Can those of you listening guess at home?
In her ass.
Well, that's 2 of them. So can you guess that? No. You're close. That's one of them.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't remember how old I was, but yeah, Lara Croft was didn't realise that, you know, video game characters and sexuality was starting to come together. And
Yeah. Yeah, as far as I mean, on that subject, where the way they've modelled Lara, she's got a lovely physique, I must say, but she is.
But she's also almost ordinary as well.
Yeah, very beautifully dimensioned. I mean, personally, I'm not into massive fucking tits, and I'd much rather see a woman who's got some muscle and some physique. And
I've got to say, I do wonder how this
works.
tiny little girl is able to pull off some of these miraculous jumps. And
she does have superwoman shoulders. Like, let's face it, some of the climbing and stuff she does is... I mean, it would be very, very difficult for a man to do with their upper body strength. And she just does it with ease.
Here's a bit of trivia for you. But the other thing that also was originally that got me interested in Tomb Raider, was, well, just to let you know, was that originally it was going to be a male character.
Yes.
But can you guess why they changed it? Trivia for you?
No.
Because it was way too similar to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And of course, me and myself, huge fan of Indiana Jones, was the other reason why I was interested in this game. I was just like, oh, it's just a female Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So whether they made that distinction or not, it was still instantly, that was how.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked that. I liked Lara. I mean, I didn't like Lara previously.
No.
I thought it was just a sort of, like you say, a sexualized Indiana Jones previously, but that was the 90s, you know what I mean? And even the early noughties, you know, they were pretty, like, I mean, even like Metal Gear Solid, for instance, it still resides today. Like, fucking what's her face is just a bit ridiculous. But the reason I like this,
Quiet, I think the character is.
Quiet, that's it. Yeah, you know.
What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with a bit of silliness in your video game every so often.
Yeah,
and that's what Metal Gear is all about, isn't it? It's super serious themes and then a bit of, you know, bit of silly thrown in.
But at the end of the day, I don't like the quiet character because it's just too overtly sexual for my taste.
Yes.
Whereas I do love this Lara Croft character, and most notably, like, it was perhaps I think in this Rise of the Tomb Raider, she's even better fleshed out than in the previous one. In the first one, you sort of got to see how much of a badass she was, but you didn't really understand what drove her. No. And in this game, you really get to see why she is the way she is.
I haven't had a chance to play this game just yet, but I have to ask you, Jeff, is there a cheat code to make Lara naked in this game?
No.
God damn it. 10 games I've been waiting for this cheat code to work. They promised me back on the PC that it would work.
Yeah, no, they've been trolling about that for years. But no, there's no cheat code. She's got lots of various different interesting outfits.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that'll satisfy some people.
All of them are quite modest, I must say. she's. I think the last Tomb Raider did have a mod to allow you to make a nude. They modified it, but it wasn't very convincing either.
I can imagine it's not to the finesse of Crystal Dynamics.
No, that's it. Like, the quality and standard of her modelling in this game would be very hard to replicate, I think.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask, super jump. I'm going to ask again, what was the third thing that got me involved in Tomb Raider? Can you guess what it is? And that this game and the recent Tomb Raiders don't have anymore?
Oh, I don't know.
Dinosaurs. Where's my goddamn dinosaurs?
Well,
I remember taking on the T-Rex, jumping and spinning in the air with my dual Berettas.
There's no dinosaurs.
No.
I don't know. I think it would ruin the aesthetics.
I think it would, yeah. Unless she's going to get lost in the Lost World in future iterations when they start running out of ideas again.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't put Lara Croft in space yet, so...
No, that's true. She could go to space. She'd make a good astronaut, I'm sure. Well, I don't know, actually. She's just, I don't know. I don't know if you want her to become like a Batman, where she can just do everything.
Well, I mean, she's more like a Catwoman, with tombs instead of, wealthy estates.
I like her fallibility in this. They've made her more...
Well, they cemented that over and over again in the game just before this one. Tomb Raider.
Yeah, they've made her
They made her vulnerable, and
much
they made
more
her
vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the most interesting characters are, if heroes or heroines, they need to overcome adversity, and you have to have that inkling in their mind that their humanity could fail them. Otherwise, they tend to get a bit boring, and then you sort of focus on the bad guys more, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, I do very much enjoy this character of Tomb Raider. The reboot has been exceedingly well thought out, and the great thing about this game is because it's a slight twist on a very overused theme. We've had the father redemption stories over and over and over again.
Just to say that has appeared in quite a few of the Tomb Raider games, although the continuity between the different studios and the different publisher of the game meant that the continuity sort of changed. I mean, her father's name is changed, I think, 3 times. The disappearances of both her parents, both simultaneously and at different instances. And at times, it's still a little bit vague as to what actually happened, where and when, and whether this continuity or this reboot is going to do something different with her family lineage. But some of the other games were very much about her family issues, and the whole sense of that Lara Croft was out doing these things to try and get past the stress of losing her family.
And this is much better written. It's much more realistically written. This story in Rise of the Tomb Raider is focused on her relationship with her father, and what about her father's work and her relationship with her father drives her forward. Again, I'm going to draw parallels to Indiana Jones and his father before him. And... kind of similar, but this is much better written. I don't know. The relationship between Indy and his dad was funny.
That has the it is portrayed as funny, but of course there was some serious things going on there at the same time.
But this is much more realistic and feels authentic. And
very cinematic as well.
It makes for good cinema, And one of the nice things is instead of it being a redemption story, which is like,
skip,
wake me up when it's fucking over. This is a vindication story, which is a subtle difference, but actually you get much more behind Lara, and you're much more rooting for her because what she's doing is very positive. It's not like it's a morally grey area type thing. She's driven to prove that her father wasn't a nutter and that they're not crazy. And for a while, she'd spent her time doubting her own father, and then she comes across the realization that no, he was right, and that you can really then understand why she gets her passion to show the world. No, he wasn't fucking crazy, and it's brilliant. I mean, look at this. Look at how well
it is.
modeled
It's compelling to watch. I'm losing my words looking at the animations because it's gone past the point of the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, actors are going to be replaced in the next 15 years with these beautiful renders of characters.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Final Fantasy movie, and I gotta be honest.
The Spirits Within,
Yeah, the Spirits Within, and this is almost there. And this is still a DirectX 11 game. So if we go to DirectX 12, I mean, we've seen Square Enix's demo called
Tech
The
demos.
Crying Witch of what they will do with DX12. So, I mean, I am absolutely so excited for what Square Enix is going to produce, their studio is going to produce with DX12, because already look at this, it's fantastic, so beautiful. Yeah, and with the story to drive it as well, this is a fantastic experience. And
well, that was my only criticism of the first reboot. I played it through on the Xbox 360, and for me, it was nigh on Game of the Year. As a matter of, I remember it was the same year that Dead Space 3 came out, and I enjoyed Dead Space 3, and then I played Tomb Raider, and I got more claustrophobic and physically jumped more playing that game than I did Dead Space 3.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely loved Tomb Raider, and then I recently replayed the HD remake, or the update for it.
Yeah.
The enhanced edition, I don't know whatever it was called.
On the Xbox One, yeah?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because they got it. It was with the Xbox Live thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it was. It was a free download.
Sweet.
And so I played it through again. However, I skipped all the cutscenes on that playthrough. I still played it on the max difficulty, but the cutscenes were playing, and I was like, yeah, I know this, skip. And so on a second playthrough, it wasn't that interesting. The gameplay still held me all the way through. I still loved playing the game.
Yeah.
But the story
the story's not there in the first one. No. But the story is
But
here
the story
in
of
this
characters, the rise of her, essentially, how she became the Tomb Raider is still there.
Yes, yeah. The story is much deeper and more interesting in this one.
It still looks like they'd like to bat the 7 bells of crap out of her.
Well,
throw her into every surface possible.
They have... No, undoubtedly, the worst thing about the last Tomb Raider was the amount of falling she did.
Yes, and then standing right back up afterwards.
It became a bit of a one-trick pony in that it was like, oh, we need to do some action now. Oh, what shall we do? We'll just have her continuously fall.
Or sliding.
Or slide, then fall, then slide, then fall. And she would smash into stuff from heights which would really leave her like a meaty bag of dusty bones.
That's what I was saying earlier. She would just get back up,
yeah. But they've toned it down a little bit in this. It's still in there, they still are obviously finding it tricky. But then she is Tomb Raider, and what she does do is an awful lot of climbing around. So falling and managing those falls is a big part of what she does anyway. But yeah, they've kept it much more sort of like, it's not their only one-trick pony. Yeah, they do much more things like scenes where fantastic climber. They do much more things like scenes where you're running from various different threats and things like that. You know. So you got much more like chase scenes and things like that, action scenes, a bit like Indiana Jones being chased by the bull,
or the arrows or the traps,
of course. That sort of thing. That kind of thing comes out much more. You still got all the collectibles left.
I was going to say the interface for the game is exactly identical to the last one. The icons are the same, the interface is the same.
Yeah.
It is just it is a sequel. It is a continuation. It's not broken. Don't fix it.
Just going to show you there. Look at that.
Absolutely stunning.
It's a beautiful panoramic view of the desert. Oh,
now, initially, when you got the game, you are playing this now on PC. You complained to me about some teething issues with the PC version of Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You care to emaborate, Geoff?
Yeah, I mean, you probably won't be able to really appreciate fully how beautiful this is on a YouTube video, but when I first got this, I just cranked everything up to very high, and my PC, I've got 7950, which if anybody knows what that is, they'll understand the sort of level of what my PC's at. And I'm using an AMD FX 8120 as well, so that's an 8-core AMD processor, which is, it's okay. But it's very well optimized for multi-threading. but it's using NVIDIA GamesWorks. Okay, so the last one was AMD. They worked for partnerships with AMD to create the graphics. With this one, they've used GamesWorks, and GamesWorks has had a lot of problems like recently. A lot of the games that come out for GamesWorks are horrific resource hogs, and they have certain features which, when you have them on very high or just in any sort of setting at all, it's vastly badly optimized, terribly optimized. And what's going on is, I mean, some people are beginning to be suspicious that NVIDIA is sort of trying to use their software to make people believe that their cards are obsolete and to try and sort of fuck over AMD quite a bit. But the way that they're doing it is easily solved. So what I had to do was control tessellation with the Crimson drivers, because I'm using AMD, but you can do the same thing if you're using, say, an older NVIDIA card. You can just go to where the drivers go, like for the individual game setting, and you can just go, right, you're not going to have tessellation at 64 times, which will basically draw ridiculous amounts of wireframe meshing and then do all this kind of like bump mapping detail. So you just turn that down to like 8 times, and your eye will not see the difference at all. So like if you look at say these characters, that the way they're like embossed into the stone, yeah. If I had tessellation up to 64, they would look like they're even deeper into the stone, but then they would look stupid because they'd look too deep. Yeah. So now they like on 8 times it's fine, and you get a big performance increase. There's something called ambient occlusion, and NVIDIA does their own version called HBAO Plus. You don't really notice any benefit for using this HBAO Plus, but fuck me does it hog resources, right? And then the other thing is if you go on to use very high textures instead of just high textures, one of the things that, I mean, like, you can barely see the difference. Like, you almost can't see the difference at all between high and very high textures at 1080p. But the textures at very high are very poorly compressed. So it just, like, if you have only got something like 3 gig of VRAM, which is a shitload of VRAM, especially for 1080p, but you're using very high textures, it runs out. So you're like, so I bumped my textures down to high.
And it still looks gorgeous.
Controlled tessellation, yeah. Everything else is at very high, so the shadowing, all the lighting effects, all that sort of stuff is all absolutely maximum. But yes, control the tessellation from the drivers, turn off HBAO Plus, and the other thing I had to do was, this is one of the first games which really 8 gigabytes isn't quite enough, yeah. So 8 gigabytes of RAM means that you're going to need to start using your Windows page file, your swap file for Windows, and to get good performance, you need to make sure that your page file, either you've got 16 gig of RAM or your page file is on a quick drive. So I had to put my page file on an SSD drive, so that when it's loading, I wasn't getting like really bad stuttering. So on moments like that where you see the little Tomb Raider logo come up and it's accessing the disk, I was getting real bad stuttering at that point there. Right. But now my page file is on an SSD. I don't get that at all. So with a few simple fixes, just being aware of like what GamesWorks is up to, and missed it. Just being aware of what GamesWorks is up to and how to fix their sort of very gross inefficiencies, then really, like, as you can see, this game is absolutely stunning. And it is it's well optimized in the main. Okay. In the main. So as long as you just know how to fix the generic GamesWorks problems, I have not had any other problems with this game, and it is absolutely
Have you encountered any crashing, corrupted save files, or anything that's gonna, ruin the experience at all?
I had one crash, and where it crashed to the desktop, and I could not figure why. I had no explanation.
And it hasn't done it since.
And it's never done it since. Well, it just seemed to be a random one.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty important, because there's been a lot of bad ports lately to PC, especially from consoles.
Well, again, the last really worst port was Batman.
Of course, yeah.
And that was a Games Works game.
Yes.
So now I'm wondering if a lot of people's complaints about it were just similar kinds of problems to this. I'm not sure. I know people were getting massive crashes to the desktop, but if you start running out of memory on something, that's when it's going to start crashing. So, yeah, I mean, I may buy that Batman if I can pick it up cheap on Steam and see if I can fix the problems with it, if it's just the standard Games Works bullshit, really. But yeah, I mean, they're trying to make people believe their cards are obsolete, but I'm running a 7950, which I bought in 2013.
And it's still kicking ass right now.
And it's still kicking ass right now, yeah, as long as you know what to do with it, so...
Well, back to Tomb Raider, Geoff. Have you ever seen the Tomb Raider movies?
I've seen 2 of them, I think.
Well, there are just the 2. The first one, which came out in 2001, and then I think again in 2003, based off the success of the first one.
Don't like Scorpions.
Financially successful, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's got Angelina Jolie in it.
It was that combined with the sex appeal of the time of Lara Croft, and of course the the high rate of sales for Tomb Raider.
Yeah. I don't like Angelina Jolie's very much as Tomb Raider. I have to be honest. I would much rather see a non-anorexic play as Tomb Raider, and somebody with. I don't know, if they can find an actress who looks like this, and is actually English, and has got a sassy attitude. You know that girl,
I actually thought the girl from Star Wars. Yes, when I saw her, I was like, she would make a great Lara Croft. Yeah. I actually thought that too.
She will. I will be very surprised if she doesn't end up being Tomb Raider. To be honest. Yeah. We called it first. She's perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I despised the Tomb Raider movie when it came out. I thought it was an absolute joke. I'm not a big fan of Angelina Jolie. I've seen a few great performances from her.
It's like typical Hollywood bullshit where they just don't know how to write a character. She's ridiculously infallible.
But the thing is, though, it was at the time it was the highest grossing video game to movie adaptation. It made like 230 million on its opening weekend. It was huge, and of course that was ever since we've had nothing but the same type of regurgitated attempts where they're like, well, this isn't making the money that Tomb Raider made. But of course that was I think still the highest grossing one is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Surpassed Tomb Raider, but again it was something.
Yeah, I mean that's got Gemma Arterton in it, and I mostly watched it for. Is it Jake Gyllenhaal?
Jake Gyllenhaal, who I also value as a very good actor, but again, I haven't actually seen it. I'm starving it off for future video game to movie reviews.
Again, with Prince of Persia, like those 2 actors are fantastic, and I love both of them.
Yes.
But the script was fucking awful. The scene plotting was awful. Like the way the whole thing panned out was shite. But goddamn, they're so beautiful.
Beautiful people.
Yeah, beautiful people. And so I mean, I just enjoyed it because they were so fantastic themselves. I enjoyed their performance and I enjoyed their beautiful faces. But it's just Hollywood, man. They just don't get gamers. They don't get games. They don't get good story writing. We would all much rather watch Game of Thrones rather than most Hollywood shite. Yeah. Because the characters are fallible, interesting. You don't actually know what's going to happen. Your favorite people can die at any moment. There's just no rules. And that's what they need to start bringing to Hollywood, really. Something that's a little not stop rehashing the same cliches because they think it's safe. Yeah.
Well, Tomb Raider also continues to exist in comic book form. I think it's had 3 different separate runs. I think it's Top Cow comics. Don't quote me on that. But I think they are because of poor sales or because of licensing issues. I think the Tomb Raider comic book licenses bounced around a fair amount, and so I think there are different continuations from the different iterations of Tomb Raider throughout the last 20 years.
Right.
I think the sales for this game was very strange, because I think it was the president of Square Enix or one of the directors stepped down after poor sales for Tomb Raider, despite the fact that it was hugely successful.
How bizarre.
And it is very bizarre, and I think this game, yet alone as well, has not done the numbers that Tomb Raider used to, but it's still an absolutely quality game.
Yeah.
From just the looks of it, than the fact that it is everything that the last game was, plus more. As I said, I haven't played the game, but it just looks and feels, and from what I've spectated on, it is everything that they said it would be. So I'm going to leave you to close out on your recommendation, Geoff.
Oh, absolutely. I massively recommend this game. It's perfectly paced. It's fun. The action's there. The story's there. Like, it's got everything you would want from a third-person action
adventure
slash
shooter.
Oh,
that's an important question, Geoff. Are there tombs in this game?
Yeah. Like, if you loved the difficulty of the puzzles of the old Tomb Raiders, right? This is a much more simpler, like
streamlined
system. But one of the things I hated about the Assassin's Creeds and things like that,
God, was the Tomb Raider elements.
Well,
totally, I agree.
It was just the constant fucking collect 100 flags on this level.
God, that was...
Yeah. And you fucking know, you'll never know where they are, so you just go around. So you have to get a guide out, right? If you have to go onto the internet and get a guide to be able to complete your game, right, they're doing something wrong as far as I'm concerned, and they're just trying to flesh out
a mediocre game in that.
A mediocre game by giving you more to do that's boring.
Yeah.
Right? And this game does not do that in the slightest. It goes, right, this is a fantastic game, and if you want all the stuff on it, you don't have to get it, but if you want 100% the game, all you got to do is find the map, which will show you all the locations where
the treasures
everything
are
is,
and the tombs are,
and there's not too much of that stuff to be able to then go and find it all. It's a bit like,
it was a case sometimes of just going, I can see the treasure, but now how the hell do I figure out which platform I need to jump to in order to do stuff? And then you're like, oh wait, I don't have that ability yet, I'll have to come back later.
But they do all the fast traveling things, so you can get there to pick up the stuff you haven't picked up really easily. You can go back at any
to an area,
time,
re-explore it,
and go back and forward throughout the whole thing as you please. So this has been excellently paced, excellently dished out. The action is fantastic. The story writing is on a par with anything you'll come across, and I couldn't recommend it more, to be honest. It's this along with the other one is one of my top action adventure games for sure. It possibly is my top action adventure game, for sure.
Alright, well, I just want to say thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday with another video game. In the meantime, you can check in with both Ian and myself tomorrow. We're heading back to Nam. Either that, or you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Patreon. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy.